Sweet. All right, that is verification. We're recording. I see that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 ASUNM Vice Presidential Candidate Debate. My name is Joshua R. Lafayette, and I'm the Executive Director of the ASUNM Elections Commission, and I will be your moderator tonight. I am assisted by Assistant Director of the Elections Commission, Lucas D. Gutierrez, who will be recognizing candidates' turn to speak, and I'm also assisted by Elections Commissioner John Hawkins, who will be our timekeeper this evening. Tonight's debate will follow the following format. Each candidate will be given a 1-minute opening statement in order of ballot number. This will be followed by 8 questions. Each individual candidate will receive 2 questions in which they will have 90 seconds to answer. After time is up, all remaining candidates will be recognized by the assistant director and will be provided 30 seconds in which they are allowed to answer the same question. If a candidate does not wish to answer when they are called on by the assistant director, they may waive their time. Candidates will be recognized on a rotating basis that has been predetermined by ballot number. Following this line of questioning, we will be a final goodwill question where each candidate will be given 30 seconds to answer. This will be followed by each candidate's 1-minute closing statement. So candidates at all times will conduct themselves with the utmost decorum. The following rules will apply to this evening's debate. Speaking times start when the assistant director or myself says your time begins now and will end when time has elapsed or when the speaker relinquishes their remaining time by the use of the phrase, thank you. So if you want to stop talking, say thank you. The use of slander directly against another candidate is strictly prohibited. Obscenities and the usage of profanity are also prohibited. A good rule of thumb, if you would not say it to your grandma, do not say it here. Speaking time will be strictly enforced and candidates are strongly encouraged to view the time clock, which will be provided on the screen of Elections Commissioner Hawkins. The speaker may ask for the question to be repeated at no time penalty to the speaker. Failure to comply with any of these rules will result in a loss of speaking time and being immediately muted by the timekeeper. All of tonight's questions have been sent into the Elections Commission by students over the past few weeks and have been changed only grammatically. Questions pre-assigned to each candidate's ballot number by the Elections Commission. All candidates are reminded that tonight's debate is a privilege. Does anybody have any questions for me at this time? Seeing none, we are going to move on. With that, good luck, everybody. And will the assistant director please recognize the first speaker's opening statement?
All right, how's it going, everybody? So let's get this started. So the first opening statement, the first minute will go to Ryan Regalado, and your minute starts now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Regalado. I'm running for ASUNM Vice President. I want to start off by just kind of highlighting my experience within ASUNM and overall. I was a senator for 3 semesters, I think to date, with bill going in through this week. I've written 70 pieces of legislation, including 2 additions of 2 scholarships into ASUNM's law book, a constitutional amendment, creating a diversity and equity inclusion position within ASUNM, transparency, and so much more. I really thank you for the opportunity for letting me present to you today, and I really hope that I can answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ryan. And next, we'll go to Ian Baker, and your time starts now.
Cool. Well, howdy, y'all. My name is Ian Baker, and I am here today because I'm running for ASUNM Vice President. I believe that how do I phrase this? I believe that ASUNM could be doing a lot better job at what it is doing than it is currently doing now. And I feel that me and my running mate, Noah Dowling-Lujan, number 4 on the presidential ballot, I'm number 2 on the vice presidential ballot. I feel like us 2 could do a lot of good for the school and a lot of good for the students. I've used my time here at UNM to meet many people from various backgrounds and learn about the students. I've taken courses within the sign program to learn more about deaf culture. I've taken classes within human geography to learn more about our world at large. Myself, I'm a film major predominantly, and I feel like that'll help me with running. Yeah, it's gonna be good, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Next opening statement is Elena Lee. So your time starts now.
Hey y'all, how's everybody's evening? My name is Alina Lee, and I'm running to be your next ASUNM Vice President. I'm running with Jacob all agree who is running for president as #1 on the ballot. Our three main focuses for our platform is institutional reform, COVID-19 relief, and inclusivity. So just some ideas of what we're advocating for is the Asian Pacific American Cultural Center, along with long-term solutions in regards to COVID-19 as well. I'm a voice for the students, and I wish to continue to be doing so and continue to be a representative for the Asian community here on campus. Overall, I want to leave UNM knowing that I did something in my time to benefit the students not only now, but for the years to come. Being vice president will enable me to fulfill those goals. Voting opens on March 8th and closes on March 10th at 5 p.m. So vote for me, Lena Lee, #3 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And our last opening statement will be Lauren Canlin. Your time starts now.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Canlin and I will be running for ASUNM Vice President. And kind of a reason why I want to become Vice President is because throughout my time here at UNM, I've seen and I've experienced firsthand the changes that ASUNM needs to make in order to make it more inclusive, transparent, and accessible. And that's why Ricardo and I are running on transparency, opportunity, and community. I want to ensure that student organizations and entities here on campus have the tools and resources necessary to grow and thrive, even during the midst of a global pandemic. And my biggest goal, if elected, would be to make sure that UNM students are undoubtedly seen, heard, and advocated for. Please consider going out March 8th through 10th and voting #4 Vice President Lauren, #2 Ricardo Hill, and let's start implementing that one pack mentality. Go Lobos.
Thank you very much for that. And with that, we will be moving into our first question of the evening that will be for Mr. Ryan Regulato. How would you, as Vice President, work with members of the ASUNM Executive Cabinet and the Senate to make sure that the views and perspectives of the UNM students are represented? Mr. Regulato, your 90-second response will begin now.
Thank you so much for letting me answer this question. I think this is actually a really good question because it's a problem that is really prominent in ASUNM, something definitely I've had to work on as a senator. One of my initiatives and me and Greg's initiatives is an open and revamped ASUNM. So having the ability to, like, my grand idea is revamping the Constitution in a way that we reach out to student organizations and have them, kind of contribute on how they want to see the government formed. It's a really big revamp, and it's something I really want to do since last semester, but amid the global pandemic, it wasn't right to do. We're not going to get the best outreach we can as if we were all on campus. So getting the ASUNM Constitution, having the executive branch, senators, and then different student orgs, being able to come in, give ideas out, and then put feelers out there for anyone who wants to join like a constitutional convention to just go ahead and rewrap up all the ideas that we had together and vote on them, and then getting those ideas signed in together in a petition to have the ASUNM Constitution, renewed through the Board of Regents is a really good idea. It'd be a very good idea to have ASUNM kind of stay out of revamping the Constitution. The students are gonna, vote for it. They're gonna put it on the ballot. It's not gonna go through the Senate. It's gonna be done by petition. So I think that's a really good initiative, and that's gonna definitely, reach out to orgs and get them involved in ASUNM, even if they don't have the most experience in ASUNM. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ryan. And the 30-second response time, if you would like, goes to Ian Baker, and your time starts now if you would like.
Cool, thank you. So how I feel to better get our legislative branch and our executive branch to represent our students more is to, first of all, get more diversity onto ASUNM Senate. I know as vice president, you have the opportunity to appoint different senators to ASUNM Senate. And I think the way to do that and get people who best exemplify the needs of others is to reach out and talk to various organizations, figure out what they need, and give that to them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ian. And our next 30-second response will be for Elena Lee. So if you'd like to respond, your time starts now.
Yeah, so in regards to that question, I think the two biggest things are just communication, having open communication, and outreach. I feel that there's definitely a divide between, the different branches within ASUNM, and so I think next year, since everybody's planning to go in person, it'd be really cool if we all can have meetings and whatnot, and just do better in general. you get what you put into it. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And the last candidate is Lauren Canlin. So if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
So one thing I would like to do as vice president to start getting into the executive cabinet here in ASUNM is I would like to first start off with getting the vice president involved in executive one-on-ones with the agencies to ensure that the vice president knows exactly what's going on between all the agencies. Additionally, promoting Senate to the executive directors so that these executive directors are aware of what the student body wants, which Senate is supposed to advocate for.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to be going into our next question, which is for Mr. Ian Baker. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many aspects of university life, including ASUNM Senate meetings and office hours, have been moved virtually. Are there any aspects of it would retain if campus returns in an in-person model in the fall? Your 90-second response begins now.
Would you be able to repeat the question for me one more time? My connection cut you out in the middle of it.
Yeah, you're chilling. So as you know, many university goings on have moved online, including ASUNM Senate meetings and office hours. So if we return to an in-person model in the fall, would you as vice president retain any of the virtual components of ASUNM Senate?
Okay, so I think the virtual components can help us quite a bit, even with, say, we go back on campus, we're able to meet in person, but I think allowing people the opportunity to join, say, meetings virtually gives a lot more access to students who maybe cannot be there in person. We could, say, have an in-person meeting, but also have it on Zoom so other people could join in and participate. Because I know a big worry that is going to be coming up while the vaccines are being distributed right now, it's very unclear when everybody's going to get access to them. So I feel like saying next semester COVID's not going to be an issue is not going to help our students. I feel like we need to still give those options to people, such as having it online. That would be probably my biggest thing, and that would open up more just transparency and a lot more accessibility for students to participate in student government. That would be my main talking point here. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ian. So the next 30-second response, if you would like, Elena Lee, and your 30 seconds starts now, if you would like.
So I would definitely keep some aspects in regards to virtual and ASUNM, because if next semester we were to go in person, I feel like half of the students would, definitely be okay with that. Everyone's just looking for community and whatnot, trying to get out. But the other half may not be so comfortable in regards to like going out because, it is a global pandemic and, maybe it's personal or other reasons. And so I think you should definitely obtain a hybrid model. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So the next 30-second response will be to Lauren Canlin. So your 30 seconds starts now.
I think it's still important to maintain some virtual components, even if we are transitioning to in-person. I think one thing that could be implemented as vice president is to host either a live stream or make Senate somewhat virtual so that people could still tune in even if they're not comfortable coming in person. On top of doing that, I think that we should focus on some accessibility issues where we ensure that closed captioning is happening during Senate meetings. And thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Regalado, if you would like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I think, many companies are like showing how they can like have their workers at home now. I think that's definitely like something we can implement now. With office hours, we can offer them on Zoom and in person. So if someone wants to speak, offer them in both directions. Also, the Student Union Building has just got the capabilities to offer live streaming for meetings. So we should definitely take advantage of that technology whenever we do come back in person. Something I've had a conversation with about, kind of posting our meetings online. So with Ryan and Chris, so I think we should do that. Thanks.
Thank you. And with that, we'll be going to our next question that is for Elena Lee. What do you believe are some crucial qualities a vice president needs to have in order to ensure their duties are being fulfilled? And which of these do you believe you possess? Your 90-second response will begin now.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think one thing that a vice president should emulate is being personable and able to connect with students. I feel like I do that very well. With being a first generation Asian American student, I can connect to students on campus, considering that majority of UNM is first gen, as well as I'm also a lottery scholar. I'm on the lottery scholarship as well. So I know a lottery scholarship is a hot topic right now this semester because, it was, like not part of the budget and is supposed to be 53% funded compared to like this year it was like 65% funded. And I think another thing too is that from the get-go, I've always been involved with UNM, starting with the ELL, but then branching out to, the Asian American Student Association, and then, Pi Beta Phi sorority along with Southwestern Advantage. So, yeah. And then as well as, I think being humble, I think is really important. Having a good stream of communications and listening to the people because, we are a service to the students, and so we have to be service minded, which I feel like I emulate those really well. And yeah, thank you.
Executive Director Lafayette, I wasn't able to hear part of the question. Can you repeat it? It's just quality.
I'm sorry?
I wasn't able to hear that part of the question.
Repeat it? Yeah, you got it. So the question was, what do you believe are some crucial qualities a vice president needs to have in order to ensure their duties are being fulfilled? And which of these qualities do you believe you possess? So I believe Lauren Canland is next to speak, actually.
So I think one of the crucial things that a vice president should uphold is being able to think outside of the box. Thinking of these creative solutions for things that already kind of have a made structure is a critical aspect of how we're going to evolve and innovate as Senate and ASUNM. So I think really honing in on that fact of flexibility and creativity within the ASUNM structure is something that I would love to uphold and continue to uphold as vice president.
Thank you for that. So Ryan Regalado, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, I think a really well working operation of how Senate works, which I definitely do have with my experience in the Senate, as well as encouragement. Recently I just talked with the SNR chair and they have already 7 resolutions passed, which is great. But in the past, it was kind of like only me writing pieces of legislation or only a few senators writing pieces of legislation. So encouraging senators to kind of reach out and do more work in Senate is definitely like a quality that feels encourage people. So I think I do possess that. Thank you.
Thank you. So Ian Baker, if you would like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Cool. So I believe one quality a vice president should have is the ability to go out and find the people we need to make change. I know you get to appoint people to the Senate, and I think being able to go out, talk to the communities, talk to different organizations, different clubs, different groups, different events, talk to people there, figure out what their issues are at UNM and what they need to make it suit them. And by doing that, I think we can create a place that fits all of us. Thank you.
All right, so we'll be moving on to our next question. So the question is for Lauren Canland.
Actually, correct, yes. So the next question is for Lauren Canland. How do you plan to keep your senators accountable when reaching out to the various student organizations that they represent? Lauren Canland, your 90-second response begins now.
Definitely. I think senator accountability is something that should be upheld throughout the entire school year. I think that one way that we could start implementing this and getting on the ground floor of implementing this idea would be to start building relationships with the senators. I think that ASUNM should not be a scary place. I think that it should be open to all people, ideas, and concepts. And I think that, one of the pillars that Rico and I are running on is community. And in order to build that community, we need to build those relationships. I think on top of keeping senators accountable for reaching out to student organizations, I think that one of the ideas that we would like to implement is a House of Representatives in Senate. And so it would be a separate entity from Senate, but it would play a big role in how Senate operates. So the House of Representatives would essentially be a kind of separate entity than ASUNM Senate, and it would be made up of representatives from student organizations, resource centers, and any entity on campus that feels like they need a voice. And the purpose of the House of Representatives would be to relay all of their concerns and questions to ultimately what we would like to add a joint council committee. And that committee would be implemented with the addition of 10 seats to Senate. So the House of Representatives would advocate for themselves in the joint council committee. And then the purpose of the joint council committee would be to advocate and vote in Senate on behalf of all the student organizations represented there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. So the next response will be for Ryan Regalado, and your 30-second response time starts now.
Yeah, I think making senators feel welcome is really important in, making sure they're held accountable. First, accountability has been a problem, like making sure they're getting the merits if they're not doing their job. But to just prevent the overall problem and them not getting the merits in the first place, to making them feel like they're actually making an impact. So then it can kind of be discouraging in that point, like they're not involved in the executive side of ASUNM or that they're going on in ASUNM. Making sure that senators feel more involved and we're doing more events as a Senate definitely would help in making sure that we're holding them accountable to do their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. So next 30-second response time will be for Ian Baker. So if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Cool. So I believe it's very important to keep ASUNM senators accountable for their actions and say the bills they vote on. We need people who represent the students. And if they're not going to be that for the student populace, we need to figure out who the people are to do that. And I think accountability goes higher up than ASUNM, specifically with, say, the Board of Regents. The Board of Regents is not elected. They are appointed by the governor. Therefore, they don't best represent our schools. So me and my campaign partner plan to fight on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So lastly, will Elena Lee, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, I think Senator accountability is super important. I think that if we were to adopt an in-person semester next year, that senators, if they have the time, should actually go visit the student orgs that they represent, because you are the representative for them and then you are the voice for them. I think another big thing is being part of the community. How can you represent a community if you're not a part of it? And I feel like that's what makes me unique. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll be going into our next question, which is for Mr. Ryan Regalado. Out of over 400 chartered student organizations, less than 100 go through the ASUNM budgeting process. How would you plan to make sure that every student org is aware of and fosters participation while conducting budget hearings? Ryan Regalado, your 90-second response will begin now.
Yeah, that most definitely is a really big problem that I noticed as going through the Senate and financial process in ASUNM. I know all of my student orgs that I was assigned as a senator, I would reach out to them and tell them, hey, we can provide you money. You're paying student fees in this, and this is exactly what it's for. So I think having senators, I think we should make it a requirement that senators go and meet one-on-one or go to a meeting for student organizations that they're assigned to. So that way there's always that outreach and they're required to have it. I know sometimes it's really hard. Student organizations don't email you back or there's no correspondence between them. But having that, a mandate in the law book where student organizations or senators are required to go meet with their sponsored student organizations at the very minimum once a semester to make that connection, they can hopefully, there'll be some organizations that are then requesting funding. I know that's a lot of people really hate that they think ASUNM takes all of the funding for, that we take for student fees when there's a lot of funding available, even right now. I think there's over $200,000 in the general fund just sitting there that if student organizations want to use, it's going to be used next year. I'm also just implemented a bill that should be sent to Senate next week or next cycle that would allow any new student organizations that would have been eligible for the full amount to be eligible to request a budget in the next semester. So hopefully we can encourage more student organizations to request a budget next year without having to have that $500 cap that they normally would have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So the 30-second response time, if you would like Ian Baker, starts right now.
Oh, would you be able to repeat the question for me one more time? I'm so sorry, it cut out in the middle again.
Yeah, I got you. So out of the over 400 chartered student organizations, less than 100 go through the ASUNM budgeting process. How would you plan to make sure that every student org is aware of and fosters participation while conducting budget hearings?
Cool. Okay. So the way to get, I believe, to get student organizations coming to us and us being able to give the funding to them starts at a personability level. We need to be a group that they feel represented by. We need to be a group that they feel they can come and talk to. We need to give off that we are there for them. And I feel like giving off that to them will allow them in return to trust us and come to us to ask for these things. I plan on doing this by just community outreach. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So Elena Lee, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, so I think the answer is simple. I would say be outreach and effort, because like I said, what you get is what you put into it with anything. So I think to like in order like for those like 100 organizations to apply for budgets, I think one of them just like let them know that hey, like here's this money, like you guys can apply for it, and actually going through with them and like planning a budget with them and like make sure they follow standing rules and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, so if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts right now.
I think one of the biggest things that we can do as ASUNM to make budget workshops more accessible to students is to ensure that they are conducted online from now on. Additionally, I think one thing that we could also do is that the finance committee should start teaming up with the appointments and outreach committee so that we can utilize the appointments and outreach committee, their outreach efforts and kind of their knowledge and expertise on that and kind of mesh that with finance.
All right, our next question of the evening will be from Mr. Ian Baker. What experience do you have that you believe qualifies you to lead the ASUNM Senate? Mr. Baker, your 90 seconds begins now.
So me, my background personally, it comes from film 100%. I believe that this is probably one of the most important things in being vice president of ASUNM, given that if for those who don't know how films are typically made, we get an executive who finds a director to then find them people who will do the job they need for them. I don't view myself as I'm going to solve all these problems, but I view myself as more of I am a person who is willing to outreach and find the best people we need to suit the students' needs best. And I feel like that is one thing that'll very much, or would be, I feel like that is one thing that is very great quality in having in a vice president, is somebody who is willing to actually go out, search, talk to people, learn from the students about students' issues and needs. We need somebody who's going to be personal, somebody who's going to outreach, somebody who is going to actually make an effort to bring students on board, let them have a platform to display their grievances and be representations to those students. One thing that I personally would like to do to achieve this, if I may, is to help give more support to the Daily Lobo and get them the opportunities they need to let students give their voices out to the people. And I feel like that is another way we can kind of jointly, mutually benefit in a way of having the students vocalize it and have us represent that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So the response time for Elena Lee, if you'd like to respond, starts right now.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, what experience do you possess that you believe qualifies you to lead the ASUNM Senate?
So to first start off, I was a part of Emerging Global Leaders, so I got my foot in with an ASUNM right away. And then I ran for Senate the spring semester of my freshman year and served on the O&A committee, and now I'm serving on the finance committee. So I have a pretty good idea in regards to how ASUNM runs. But also, I think a big thing is that I also branch out myself. I don't stay in my little niche. I'm part of the Asian American Student Association and other orgs. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So Lauren, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts right now.
I think one of my biggest pieces of experience that's been very influential on my ASUNM career is through my position as Director of Communications for ASUNM. I sit as a non-voting member on the Appointments and Outreach Committee on Senate. And through that committee, I've been able to give my opinion and my perspective on things like outreach. And one of the biggest ideas I had last semester was reallocating O&A funds to benefit student organizations during Student Success Week. And I am very proud of that.
All right, thank you for that. And so lastly, Ryan, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts right now.
Thank you. So yeah, I was the chair of the Steering Rules Committee for 2 semesters. I was the vice chair for 1 semester. I really think that, my experience expands beyond that. I've gone to budget hearings every time. I was involved with the ASUNM. I really think, I've gone to the UNM archives to learn more about ASUNM. I have a constitution from 1990 pulled up on my computer. I really feel that, my extensive experience with actually writing legislation, 70 now, as I said before, is like really drive my experience and why I'd be qualified for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, our next question of the evening will be for Alina Lee. What role do you believe the vice president should play in the legislation that goes through the ASUNM Senate? Your 90-second response will begin now.
I think, the vice president should definitely have the opportunity to, help with legislation and, be a guide and an outlet, for people to go to, if senators are busy or, are unavailable. But I don't think, the VP should necessarily vote on it because, that's kind of like the Senate's job. And yeah, thank you.
All right, so 30 seconds response time. We'll go to Lauren Canlin. So if you'd like to respond, your time starts now.
I think one of the biggest roles a vice president can play in regards to legislation is offering perspective and being a voice of reason to the senators, because oftentimes when legislation is getting passed, it gets very passionate, it gets very involved. And I think just reeling back in senators and making them realize that they're representatives of the entire student body. And I think that the biggest key aspect is making sure that the senators are grounded.
Thank you for that. So next, Ryan Regalado, if you'd like to respond, now is your time.
Yeah, I think that the vice president should definitely serve as a mentor legislatively. They should definitely be really well versed in how legislation works. I think it's just to kind of remain impartial. You don't want to seem partial whenever you're running a Senate meeting and you're leaning one way or the other on a certain piece of legislation. But being able to be reached out to as a mentor is definitely very important. Additionally, exactly for our planning constitution, I don't want to push that on senators. I want to have the students, do that themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. So Ian Baker, if you'd like to respond, your time starts now.
So I believe the power of a vice, or the role of a vice president on the Senate should be being a voice for the people. We know the senators elected to represent the people, but I feel like having somebody there who is also willing to meet with these organizations and see if this is truly the best representation for them, if they adamantly disagree, maybe. We need somebody who is willing to take that extra step to reach out to the students and help find the needs they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go into our last question of this topic for the evening. That will be for Lauren Canlin. Do you believe the 20 senators within ASUNM is enough to represent the entirety of the undergraduate body here at UNM? Your 90-second response will begin now.
No, I do not believe that only 20 Senate seats is representative. Can represent 16,000 undergraduate members. I think that as vice president, as I mentioned before, one of the things that I would like to implement is adding 10 more Senate seats. And in adding those 10 more Senate seats, we would create a joint council committee. And that joint council committee, like I said before, would advocate on behalf of the House of Representatives. I think this is one of the first and crucial steps needed to be taken in order to bridge the gap between student organizations and resource centers and any entity on campus with ASUNM. And I feel like the very first step in doing that is expanding Senate. The purpose of expanding Senate will be to ensure that all voices around campus are heard and to also give people a chance to run and advocate on behalf of their communities here on campus. And I think that is a very important thing that ASUNM should take into consideration when discussing the addition or not the expansion of Senate.
All right, thank you, Lauren. So Ryan, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, funny enough, the reason why I ran for ASUNM in the first place was because Mohammed said, who was the old student rules chair, was proposing legislation to add 10 more Senate seats to appropriate those like resource centers in different areas of campus. If you look at other college campuses, they appropriate all of their seats by college. I think that's definitely a good way of looking at it. But if you have 50, like even 100 senators wouldn't represent 1% of the population of UNM. So I think you have to try to work a way towards more equitable in what positions are there. But yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay, Ian Baker, if you'd like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
Cool. So I don't think the solution is necessarily adding more seats to the Senate. I think the solution is more of who is on the Senate representing the people. That's ultimately what it comes down to, because as my boy Ryan said earlier, you can add up to 100 people, but you're still only seeing a 1%. You know, you only see 1% of the population actually physically there represented. So I feel it's important to find the correct people for the job more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So lastly, Elena, if you would like to respond, your 30 seconds starts now.
No, I don't think we should add more seats to the Senate because the problem isn't in regards to how many numbers you have. Like previous contestants have said, it's about who you appoint into Senate. You could add as many seats as you want, but literally the same people can be voted in and they're not going to do a great representation in regards to the community. So I think the solution to that problem is honestly just outreaching people and explaining to them like what ASUNM does and why they should run for it and why it's important. Thank you.
So with that, we are going to move into our last question of the evening, in which everybody will have a 30-second response. This will go in order of ballot number, and we'll start with Ryan Regulato. What is an action you have taken to lift up the voices of fellow students, which you are proud of? Mr. Regulato, your response begins now.
Thank you. I really think implementing the advocacy scholarship is definitely the proudest thing I have to lift up students' voices. The scholarship allows students to reach out to the Senate with a problem that they have, and allows the Senate to offer a solution while also giving college affordability a look at and awarding scholarships to students. So this advocacy scholarship is definitely a great way. It needs to be expanded in a way where more students know about it, so we can hear the problems of the ASUN Senate and lift up the voices of people applying to that scholarship. Thank you.
With that, Ian Baker, you will have your 30 seconds to answer this question. That'll start now.
Could I hear it one more time? I'm so sorry about that. I cut out.
You got it. What is an action you have taken to uplift the voices of fellow students, which you are proud of?
Okay, so for me personally, one of the things I've done to kind of boost up the voices of my fellow students is specifically within our arts program. I tend to try and buy from local artists, from student artists, to try and support them in that way. But also, I try to send out their links to, like, say, Etsy's or to their own work to boost their own voice in that sort of way. Mainly giving opportunities to people to connect with others in order to become more successful. Thank you.
And with that, Alina Lee, the same question. Your 30 seconds response will begin now.
Something that speaks volume in regards to what I've done in my 2 years at UNM and I guess ASUNM is that I'm advocating for the Asian Pacific American Cultural Center, which is a resource center geared towards the Asian community. Actually, rephrase that, the PETA community, which I think is super important because, when I'm gone, it will still be benefactory to the students who are there and provide that longevity and that long-term solution that people need. Thank you.
Lauren Canland, your 30-second response to the same question will begin now.
I think one of the biggest things that I've done as a student in order to uplift the voices of others is through my sorority's philanthropy. We advocate for domestic violence awareness and the survivors with that. That is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I want to make sure that the survivors of these instances have their voices heard, they feel understood, they feel safe, and I think that that is something that we should all advocate for.
Thank you. Now we will move into closing statements. Again, in order of ballot number, you will each have 1 minute to complete your closing statements. Mr. Regulato, your 1 minute closing statement will begin now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Regulato, running for ASUN Vice President. I'm number 1 on the ballot. I'm running with Gregory Romero, who's number 3 on the presidential ballot. I'll kind of just go ahead and touch on our platforms that we're running on again, college affordability, holding UNM administration accountable, having a change in open ASUNM, as well as touching on and trying to fix campus safety as well as we can. I really think that we have like our really good detailed plan with realistic goals that we can get accomplished next year done. And I definitely recommend that you go and check out our Instagram page for more details on that. It's just Greg and Ryan. And yeah, just check us out on there, and please follow our page, and please go vote March 8th through March 10th. Thank you.
Next up will be Ian Baker. Your 1 minute closing statement will begin now.
Cool. So my name is Ian Baker, just to state it out there again, and I'm running with my boy Noah Dowling Lujan. He is number 4 on the ballot. I'm number 2 on the ballot. As many film and literary fans alike could tell you, 42 is the answer to the universe. Not saying it's a fate thing, but it could be a fate thing. I would really like to be a person students feel comfortable talking to and meeting with and figuring out how they can get more involved in the student government. And I feel like that is done at a more grassroots level. That is going to the people, talking to them, listening to them, hearing them out, bringing them in as representation for themselves to, say, legislators meeting. Let the people come talk to the senators. Let them know what they want them to represent a part of as them. Main platform, representation, and allowing students to feel their voices are spoken. Follow me at Ian_Baker_vlogs on Instagram. Thank you.
And with that, we'll move into our last closing statement of the evening. Lauren Camlin, my mistake. This is not the last. Lena Lee, your closing statement will begin now.
So yeah, if y'all want growth, development, change, and long-term solutions, vote for Jacob and Alina. I have a lot of ideas in regards to not just improving ASUNM, but UNM as a whole, something like I think that's big on our platform, which is long-term solutions. So vote for Jacob and Alina is vote for inclusivity, institutional reform, and COVID-19 relief. Voting opens on March 8th and closes on March 10th at 5 p.m. Vote for Jacob Oliger, number 1 on the ballot, and me, Alina Lee, number 3 on the ballot. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions in regards as to what you want to see the next year be like, follow us on Instagram, DM us at asunm.jacob.alina. Y'all have a good night now, and thank you for watching.
And now we will go into our last closing statement, which will be Lauren Camlin. Your closing statement will begin now.
First off, thank you to everyone who was able to make this debate possible. I really appreciate all the work and time that you guys have put into this. Firsthand, I know that ASUNM needs to be more approachable. I have felt excluded in ASUNM, and I have, coming from someone who was not involved at all my freshman year and had to break down that door to get in myself. And I want to fix that through our 3 pillars of transparency, opportunity, and community. We need to start implementing the one pack mentality in order to come back together as a community in order to better ASUNM and ultimately UNM as a whole. So please reach out to us. I don't want this to be, if elected, Vice President Canlin or President Hill. It's going to be Lauren Canlin, the criminology student. It's going to be Rico, the poli-sci student. We want to start having this rapport, and we want to start making and implementing the one pack mentality. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for everybody who is watching this at home and for all of our participants this evening. With that, Ryan, I think we are good to stop recording.